You've got the hurdle first of needing to convince folks that trans people exist, that trans people need support, and trans people are dying. And the second trust you have to build in them is that I, as a trans woman, can actually be capable of executing this and doing this. And so you're walking a very thin line with folks who are cis, who are very privileged, that look down upon trans people. Parivar Bay Area, or Parivar, is a US based trans-centering trans-led organization. We have several programs under our pillars of global disaster relief, community building, and advocacy through arts. Sizzle came about as one of our global disaster programs. Sizzle stands for Save Indian Trans All India Lives, and it is a grassroots initiative led by trans people on the ground. Our first program was around relief and recovery, when we provided food, rations, medications, and medical kits, and hospitalizations, all sorts of things that affected our trans community who were further marginalized, further neglected, and isolated during the pandemic. And very quickly, we started going into our second program, which was livelihoods, which was focused on rebuilding and rehabilitating our trans hetero folks to have an alternate option to what they usually end up having to do, which is survival sex work or badai and chella, which were still off limits given the pandemic and the lockdowns and the distancing and such. So our livelihood programs provides trans folks to own projects that allow them to build sustainable incomes, and through that program and that project, they're also able to help other trans people learn a skill in that field. To realize that in a country like India, most trans hijra kinner folks live way below the poverty line. So there's a level of class that they don't have, that most cis, lesbian, gay folks do. So when you are thinking of helping them from 7,000 miles away, you have to realize that they don't even have a computer. They probably don't even have a smartphone. They don't even know how to read and write. So you have to get adaptive, creative, and that's why it's very important to have your community leaders who are going to continue the same mission that you have on the ground. And also you have to be able to tell this community that has been relegated to sex work, badai, chella, survival sex work, and living in poverty, 13, 14 of them in a tiny 10 by 10 room, that there is support, there is hope, and the work that I'm doing might be a drop in the ocean, but they are not forgotten. There were so many places that I went where they were all like, they would talk to me 5, 10, sometimes we would be talking for an hour and they'd be like telling each other, ये तो नारिन है ना, नारिन is a word in the hijra community that they refer to women, cis women. So more than half of the times they wouldn't even know that I was a trans woman, because they've never seen a trans woman who actually can speak English or who's come from America, who looks like them and is doing this work for them. So Parivar wants to do this work, but we are a grassroots, trans-led, trans-centering organization, and the roadblocks for us to do that work have been many. I think we have to recognize that beyond all of our intersectional identities, being trans is the most marginalized, from whatever religion, whatever national origin we come from. So when we are in community, the harm that we can cause is by dividing the community further. Keep all your differences aside. You want to fight for equity, you want to fight for justice, you can do all that, but unless you're going to center, surround, and uplift trans leadership and trans people, you are never going to be truly a trans ally and a warrior for our trans liberation.